Welcome to Tigrai Television. I'm Mary Nimano, will be presenting the news for you today. Stay tuned. Commander-in-Chief for Tigrayan Defense Forces, General Taddessa Warada, says Ethiopian government should withdraw Eritrean forces for peace to be attainable. Briefing the media this afternoon, the commander said there is no strategic terrain his forces left. He also said that Tigrayan forces were left with no choice but to prevail against invaders. General Taddessa also said that Tigrayan Defense Forces have effectively crushed elements of Eritrean forces coming in the direction of Gandepta to control housing. Experts say Eritrea's involvement in the war on Tigray would make peace efforts complicated. Eritrea, military's one-party state, has sent thousands of soldiers to support Abiy Ahmed in his war on Tigray. Political analyst for peace and security in the Horn of Africa, Marasat Haya, disagrees with notions saying Isaias is not only engaging in Abiy's war, but leading the war of his own ambition. Abil Sagabo has the details.
Eritrea, a militarized one-party state, has been the main actor in the war on Tigray since the outset in November of 2022. Eritrea sent thousands of soldiers to support Abiy Ahmed in his operation against Tigray and its leadership. As to many political experts, the outbreak of the war in Tigray served Isaias for a number of purposes. Marasat Sahaye, political analyst for peace and security in the Horn of Africa, says the war on Tigray gave Isaias the opportunity to end Eritrea's long-standing international isolation and give a try to his colonial ambition in the Horn of Africa.
Defeating Tigray and then remapping the borders of the Horn of Africa, then creating a greater Eritrea by including Tigray, and then finally dismantling the Ethiopian states. So in the Horn of Africa, Eritrea will be the only viable, strong states. Then the other states will be simply hinterlands, resource centers, like during the time of colonialism. So his ambition is a colonial ambition. He wants to repeat Mussolini's.
Eritrean army's excessive violent and inhuman intervention in the war on Tigray in pursuit of payback against Tigrayans has resulted in the most destructive blowback imaginable. Human rights organizations have also documented the catastrophe posed by the involvement of Eritrean forces. Marasat says Isaias is not only involved in the war on Tigray, but leading a war of his own ambition.
In fact, it's a very complex question. Eritrea is fully engaging in this war. Not only engaging, this time Eritrea is leading the war. And the Ethiopian forces are under the direct control of Isaias Afwerki and their Eritrean generals. Then Isaias is trying to address his historical ambitions, security ambitions, as well as his hope to become the big man of the whole.
Marasat criticized the international community for failing to protect Tigray and the entire region of the Horn of Africa. He said the region will turn into a center of crisis in the event of Isaias and Abiy prevail on Tigray.
The genociders will not maintain a strong state. Rather, the stability of Tigray will have a positive impact on Eritrea as well as on Ethiopia. But if Tigray is defeated, the whole region will be in crisis. You know, the international community, its perspective is wrong. If Isaias Afwerki and Abiy Ahmed win and undermine Tigray, and finally the Horn of Africa will be a region of crisis. So it will negatively affect the international order. Everyone will be the loser. And the superpower should act now to defend Tigray, to defend Ethiopia and Eritrea. So what is important this time is not words.
Eritrean forces continue to commit unspeakable atrocities in the area they have recently occupied. Amnesty International last week said over 40 civilians killed by Eritrean forces just in Adabo in the northwestern Tigray. International organizations, including the UN, have repeatedly called for the withdrawal of Eritrean forces despite their presence in different parts of Tigray committing heinous crimes until this very moment.
IDPs displaced from northwestern Tigray, currently sheltered in the city of Abiy Adi, tell Tigray Television on how the indiscriminate shelling of major Tigrayan towns inflicted severe despair on civilian populations of the towns, causing many, including women, children, and the elderly, to flee their homes in fear of airstrikes and artillery bombardments. Aragawi has the details.
Gabrasillace Birhane, a once well-off farmer from the town of Shararo in northwestern Tigray, is now sheltered in an IDP camp in Abiy Adi, away from anything familiar. intense shelling and fear of previous atrocities being committed again have forced the 73-year-old to leave his home for the second time.
I am a farmer. I have a son who lives in Israel and used to help me. I had managed to put up buildings in Shararo, but we had to leave our belongings behind, as if it wasn't ours. We have been separated from our family members. There are many that were left in the wilderness along with their children, as they couldn't make the journey. And here we have nothing to eat and drink.
Aragai Gabraselassie, a priest from Shararo, also fled his home following the occupation of the town by the Ethiopian and Eritrean forces. The priest recalls atrocities that were committed in his area that forced him to leave his hometown.
I had a Sinotrack and the enemy troops took it by force last year. I was told it was in Humora. They told me I could get my track there. I have witnessed many atrocities on my journey to Humora. Many monasteries and monks were also a target of the enemy force. They have no mercy for monks, churches, or even children.
The number of IDPs in Tigray is increasing at an alarming rate as civilians stream from cities controlled by Ethiopian and Eritrean forces in fear of killing, abduction, and sexual violence.
Unable to communicate with their parents, children in different IDP camps remain separated from their families at the capital, Ma'ala. Our reporter Win Takidan has spoken with a 15-year-old victim who has been separated from his family after the war, who is now unable to keep in touch with them due to the communications blackout.
Manuel Halafom is 15 years young, displaced from Kafta Humora, Western Tigray. He says he got separated from his family when he got shocked after the Ethiopian forces entered his hamlet.
I left home during the start of the war in November 2020. When Abiy's soldiers started the war around the border and advanced to our locality, I had to run, and in the middle of the chaos, I got separated from my parents. There was an intense shooting, and they were selectively shooting Tigrans, saying in Amharic for Tigrans to be out.
Manuel says he witnessed Tigrans being beaten, killed, and detained by the invading forces just because they were Tigrans.
There was shooting, killing, beating, and detaining of Tigrans. If they found out any person who is Tigran by blood, they would beat and detain them, saying they are sons of militia, even if they are not.
Manuel says he then had to run along with many other children to save his life. He says his journey was anything but easy.
I joined children and elders that were running away too, and we ran to Humora. But we couldn't stay there long, and we started our journey to Magala on foot. We used to spend the night hiding in mountains. It was hard because wild animals like hyena were howling and we got scared. We had to sleep on the floor, and most of us were unable to get sleep due to the cold and the wind.
Manuel also says that he wasn't sure if he would make it alive in Magala due to the constant airstrikes and shellings along his way.
We had to beg in houses to get some food. We usually have to walk hungry. On the top of that, there were airstrikes and shelling of artilleries. It was really difficult to go through all that alone. I wasn't even sure if I would make it alive.
Manuel says he is unable to reach out his family in Sudan due to the total communications blackout and asks us to pass along this message.
I'm afraid if I will be able to get out of this crisis alive and meet my family again. I even got nightmares, and I am unable to get in touch with my family due to the all-encompassing siege. Dear my family, Halafom, Masarat, Michaela, Hailab, and Amleset, how are you? I'm alright, but I miss you a lot.
Manuel's story is the story of many other separated children in Tigray who even don't have a clue on what might have happened to their beloved families. These children had to go through a lot of difficulties to save their lives and still hope to see their families one day. This indeed is an agony of poor kids whose voices goes unheard in Tigray in the time we live in now.
Ethiopia has ranked 123rd out of 140 countries around the world in Rule of Law Index. According to the World Justice Project Rule of Law Index released on Monday, Ethiopia's overall rule of law has deteriorated by 3.6%, with the country failing one position since the year of 2021. Factors for the score ranking included order and security, criminal justice, Fundamental rights and open government, deterioration in the factor measuring order, and security played significant role for the decline of rule of law in Ethiopia. Well, that wraps up our news for the hour. Thank you for tuning in.